want to discuss something this week that is not necessarily tied to any specific recent event, but this remains timely under all circumstances. And this is something that should be a continual part of your prepared lifestyle. And that is having the gear necessary to make it home in your vehicle. Very often you might hear about get home bags. Preppers talk about that a lot, along with bug out bags and all that other kind of stuff. Well, essentially what you want to have is a bag, if not a series of bags in your vehicle that give you the ability to actually carry the supplies that you need to make it home from wherever you may be. And the gear that you need would be dependent, of course, on how far afield are you from home. How far is your daily location of employment away from home? If you have an hour drive each way to work, you very well may be looking at, 20, 30 miles. And how long would it take you to cover that on foot? That's a full day walk. If you ever have to go further afield for even your regular employment, if you find yourself maybe making day trips, 2 or 3 hour drive away, you might be looking at several days on foot to get home. Now, under what circumstances would you have to walk? Why would that ever happen? Well, for a whole variety of reasons. Natural disasters that close down the roadways so that vehicles simply cannot pass. Man-made disasters, terrorism that shuts down infrastructure so that vehicles cannot pass. If you've ever spent time on the big highways within the continental United States, for example, drive down, I-95, through Delaware, Maryland, into the South, on any given weekend in the summer. Imagine what would happen on that route if some kind of disaster struck. Okay, so you need to be prepared to walk, okay, to move on foot to make it home. So what would that entail? The first thing to consider is always keep in your vehicle seasonally appropriate footwear. That's a big one. You must have the appropriate footwear to actually be able to walk for long durations, as well as other clothing. So if you're in warm climates, this is a little bit easier. If you're in really cold climates, you need to have the clothing necessary to keep you alive if you're moving on foot, okay, through rugged terrain. So have that all in the vehicle at all times. Along with that, obviously, you're going to want to have a bag or a couple of bags, however you decide to work out your strategy, that has enough calories to get you home on that walk. Certainly water and a means of purifying water, and shelter, even if that's just as simple as, a poncho and a bivvy, something to keep you out of the elements. If you have to spend a couple of nights sleeping, off the side of the highway in the woods somewhere. These are really important things to consider. Think about other more mundane things that you may need. Do you wear corrective lenses? Keeping a spare set of glasses and contacts in that get home bag should be a no-brainer. What about your weaponry? If you're unfortunate enough to have to spend time where you're disarmed in those lovely blue shitholes, okay, it happens to all of us, we end up there sometimes, at least have what you can have. Usually you can easily have edged weapons packed away in your pack in the vehicle, obviously. And certainly, anywhere that you roam, that's a free state. Make sure that you have a firearm with you, have a good handgun ready to go. When it comes to the make it home scenario, a lot of guys talk about having some kind of rifle, a truck gun. Man, if you're carrying openly a long gun, it really puts a target on your back. If you're moving through urban and suburban areas, I don't like the idea of carrying a long gun. I would prefer to have a primary handgun on me and maybe a backup handgun in the pack. I would find that preferable over a long gun because I want to be discreet. Now, if your get home plan wouldn't involve walking through the woods or in rural areas, then certainly a rifle is much more realistic. So it all depends on your circumstances. But essentially put thought into what is necessary to make it home on foot in a worst case scenario as quickly as possible. What do you have concerning options for self-protection, for survival, fire making material, water purification, all of those things, and certainly the footwear and the clothing necessary based on the climate where you live and work. This is something that's really important to think about for a variety of reasons. Put some thought into it and make sure you have the appropriate get home gear in your vehicle at all times.